You didn't make a mistake. You didn't fall out of alignment. And the universe is not testing you. It's preparing you. I know how it feels when everything seems to fall apart at once. When the plans that once felt certain begin to dissolve. When the people you counted on drift away. When the structures you built start crumbling. Quietly, you tell yourself, it's just a phase. Then you wonder if you've misaligned. Then you start to panic. But maybe nothing's going wrong. Maybe something is being realigned. Maybe what looks like delay is actually sacred recalibration. Maybe the version of you who could receive what you've asked for is finally beginning to emerge. And everything that isn't compatible with that frequency is being moved out of the way. This is the part no one tells you about manifestation. When you begin vibrating at a new level, even slightly, the quantum field begins to reorganize your life to match. And that reorganization can look like chaos. You feel like you're moving backward. You feel like the vision is slipping. But what's really slipping is the identity that no longer resonates with your next timeline. The confusion, the disappointment, the discomfort. They're not punishments. They're signs that the field is adjusting your external reality to match the frequency you've been calling in. That's not misalignment. That's momentum. It hurts, though. I won't pretend it doesn't. The pain of surrendering what once felt safe. The ache of trusting something invisible. The grief of becoming someone new without fully knowing who that someone is. It's disorienting because you're not just letting go of outcomes. You're letting go of emotional blueprints. You're letting go of the part of you that learned to survive through control. The part that believed effort equals worth. The part that thought stillness was weakness. And that part doesn't leave quietly. It clings, it negotiates, it resists. Not because it's wrong, but because it's scared. It was never designed to thrive. It was designed to protect you. But protection isn't what you need anymore. What you need now is trust. You're not stuck. You're just suspended between identities. You're standing in the doorway between who you've always been and who you're becoming. That space is uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. Your old coping mechanisms don't work here. Your old mindset can't follow you here. And the universe, the field, it knows that. So it waits. It waits for you to become coherent, not just emotionally, but vibrationally. Because the field doesn't respond to your desires. It responds to your frequency. And when that frequency is filled with contradiction, with desperation disguised as affirmations, with control disguised as strategy, the field can't deliver. That's why nothing seems to work when you're trying too hard. Because trying, in energy, is often resistance in disguise. You're not supposed to force your way forward. You're supposed to feel your way into alignment. That alignment doesn't come from perfect rituals. It comes from becoming still enough to recognize where you're leaking power, where you're doubting yourself, where you're outsourcing your peace to a future moment. That's where preparation begins. Not on your vision board, not on your to-do list, but in the space between your thoughts. The stillness beneath the striving, the deep breath that says, even if I can't see it yet, I know something is shifting. What if this isn't a delay? What if this is the exact moment your frequency is stabilizing into a new reality? What if this is the detox before the embodiment, the pruning before the bloom? What if the universe isn't holding you back, but holding space for the real you to emerge? The one who can hold the life they've been asking for without collapsing under it. That's not a test. That's trust in action. That's the field doing what it does best, reflecting your readiness. So no, you're not being punished. You're being positioned. You're being softened in all the places where fear hardened you. You're being emptied of the noise that kept you chasing what was never meant to stay. You're being stripped of the illusions that told you you weren't ready yet. Because now, you are. And I know, this stage doesn't feel magical. It feels raw, lonely, uncertain. But this in-between, this sacred discomfort, is the threshold of change. The moment your old story becomes too small and your new story hasn't fully formed. It's the pause before the leap, the silence before the shift. And it's where your real power starts to surface. Because when the field senses that you're no longer trying to rush your way into alignment, but are willing to sit inside the space it's creating for you, it responds, not out of obligation, out of resonance. It starts to shape a reality that reflects your new center, your new stillness, your new truth. So if things feel unstable right now, let them. If things feel slow, heavy, or foggy, trust it. It means you're entering the part of the process that matters most, the becoming. And the field, conscious as it is watching, listening, calibrating to your next frequency. Because something in you has already shifted, and now reality is just catching up. The quantum field always knows. It knows the difference between a regulated nervous system and a rehearsed affirmation. It knows when you're speaking trust, but embodying fear. It knows when you're visualizing from desire, but vibrating in doubt. It knows, not because it's testing you, but because it is you. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are, what you're willing to feel, what you're willing to release, what you're willing to believe about yourself, even when the evidence says otherwise. That's the embodiment. You've done the rituals. You've said the affirmations. You've visualized the outcome. But what you're being asked to do now is something far more radical. You're being asked to stay open in the unknown, to trust in the gap, to regulate your nervous system when your mind is spiraling, to return to your center when everything is pulling you out, to stay seated at the table of your vision even when nothing has been served yet, to believe that just because it's not here today doesn't mean it isn't coming. That's the work. To lean in when the field feels silent, to stay when the ego says you should run, to soften when the body says you should tense, to trust when the mind screams you should panic. The quantum field is not a vending machine. It's a mirror. And if you're not a vibrational match for the thing you're asking for, that's not punishment, that's precision. It means you're being called to look closer at the places where you're still outsourcing your power, where you're still clinging to control, where you're still measuring your worth by what you can produce, prove, or provide. The field will not reward your urgency. It will not rush to meet your deadline. It will move in response to the coherence of your being, the clarity of your frequency, the steadiness of your nervous system. It will move when you stop chasing alignment and start becoming it. When you trust yourself so deeply that you don't need to grip the process. When you let go of the old story that says effort equals earning. When you soften into the knowing that you are worthy of what you desire, not because you've worked hard enough, not because you've proven yourself, but because you've remembered who you are. When you become the version of you who is no longer chasing peace, but living from it. No longer chasing love, but radiating it. No longer chasing freedom, but being it. That's when the field moves. Not because you forced it, but because you became the frequency where it already exists. You didn't get it wrong. You're not being punished. You're not being ignored. You're just learning how to hold the version of you that holds the vision. And that's the most sacred part. So breathe here, be here, trust here, because even in this, especially in this, you are wildly on time. And so this is the journey, not a race to the finish line, not a desperate grasp for the next manifestation, but a remembering, a returning, a soft, steady homecoming to yourself. You are not here to master the art of control. You are here to master the art of trust, not to constantly fix, force, or figure it out, but to surrender, to listen, to allow. Because life is not asking you to prove your worth, it's asking you to embody it. Currently, The quantum field is not waiting for you to become someone else. It's responding to who you are willing to be right now. So walk gently, breathe deeply, love fiercely, and remember, you are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are in perfect rhythm with a life that knows exactly where you're going. Trust the timing, trust the unfolding, and most of all, trust yourself, because you've always been the one you were waiting for.